The day my wife Layla showed me that positive pregnancy test was the happiest moment of my entire life. After 3 years of trying and 2 devastating miscarriages, we finally had hope again. I remember holding her in our small kitchen, both of us crying tears of joy, believing that our dream of becoming parents was finally coming true. What I did not expect was that this beautiful news would become the starting point of a nightmare caused by someone we trusted completely. Layla's older sister, the person we thought would celebrate with us the most, had something entirely different in mind. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you believe in supporting family through thick and thin, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stick with me through this story because what happened next changed everything we thought we knew about family. Layla grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business. Her family was solidly middle class, her father working as an accountant and her mother teaching elementary school for over 20 years. Layla was the younger of 2 daughters, and her older sister Meredith was 7 years her senior. From what Layla has told me over the years, Meredith was always the star of the family. She excelled in everything she did. Straight A student valedictorian of her high school class, full scholarship to law school, their parents never hid their pride in Meredith, and honestly, who could blame them? She accomplished remarkable things. Layla never resented her sister for any of it. In fact, she admired Meredith deeply. She looked up to her as a role model, someone who showed her what hard work and determination could achieve. Even when Layla felt overshadowed, she never let bitterness take root in her heart. She genuinely loved her sister and wanted nothing but happiness for her. Meredith got married at 28 to a fellow attorney named Douglas. Everyone thought they were the perfect power couple. But 4 years into the marriage, Layla received a tearful phone call from her sister. Douglas had been having an affair with a paralegal at their firm. The divorce was messy and public, and Meredith threw herself into her career afterward, never remarrying or even dating seriously again. She built a wall around herself, and work became her entire identity. Now let me tell you about our journey. Layla and I met 6 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was wearing a yellow sundress, and I swear the moment I saw her laugh at something someone said, I knew I was going to marry her. We dated for a year before I proposed, and we got married in a small ceremony with close family and friends. Those early years were filled with so much joy and so many plans for the future. We started trying for a baby about 3 years into our marriage. Layla had always dreamed of being a mother. She would talk about it with such excitement, describing the nursery she wanted to create, the lullabies she would sing, the traditions she wanted to start. I wanted it just as badly. The thought of raising a child with this incredible woman filled me with purpose. But things did not go as planned. Month after month passed with negative pregnancy tests. Then finally, after about 8 months of trying, Layla got pregnant. We were overjoyed. We told our families right away, started looking at cribs, even picked out a few names. Then at 8 weeks, Layla started bleeding. We rushed to the emergency room, and the doctor confirmed our worst fear. We had lost the baby. The grief was suffocating. Layla blamed herself even though there was nothing she could have done. She wondered if something was wrong with her body, if she was somehow broken. I held her through countless nights while she sobbed until she had no tears left. We took some time to heal, and then we decided to try again. The second pregnancy came about a year later. This time we were more cautious with our hope. We did not tell anyone except our parents. We made it past the 8-week mark, and we started to breathe a little easier. Then at 11 weeks, during a routine ultrasound, the technician went quiet. There was no heartbeat. Layla had to go through a procedure to remove the pregnancy that would never be. That loss nearly broke us both. After the second miscarriage, we consulted with specialists. Layla underwent tests and started taking medication to support future pregnancies. She changed her diet, reduced her stress as much as possible, and did everything the doctors recommended. We waited 6 months before trying again, wanting to give her body the best possible chance. When Layla missed her period this third time, we were terrified to hope. She took 3 pregnancy tests before she believed it. We went to the doctor immediately, and every early checkup showed a healthy growing baby. We held our breath through the first trimester, barely daring to speak about it out loud. When we passed the 12-week mark with flying colors, the doctor smiled and said everything looked perfect. We decided to wait one more week before telling our families. At 13 weeks, with strong ultrasound images and reassuring blood work, we finally felt ready to share our news. Layla wanted to do something special for the announcement, so she put together small gift boxes for both sets of parents. Inside each box was a pair of tiny baby shoes and the positive pregnancy test wrapped in tissue paper. We invited Layla's parents and Meredith over for dinner on a Saturday evening. I grilled steaks while Layla prepared her famous garlic mashed potatoes. The house smelled wonderful, and there was an energy of anticipation that I could barely contain. We waited until after dessert to bring out the gift boxes. Layla handed one to her mother with trembling hands. I watched her mom's face as she opened the box, confusion turning to realization, turning to absolute joy. She let out a cry and pulled Layla into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her cheeks. Layla's father's eyes went misty as he shook my hand firmly and told me I was going to be a wonderful father. The room was filled with laughter and happy tears. But then I noticed Meredith. She sat completely still in her chair, the gift box unopened on her lap. Her face was blank, unreadable. No smile, no tears, no reaction at all. Layla noticed too. She walked over to her sister and asked if she was okay, if she was going to open her box. Meredith looked at it like it contained something dangerous, then slowly lifted the lid. She stared at the contents for a long moment before setting the box on the side table without a word. The celebration continued around us, but that strange silence from Meredith hung in the air. I caught Layla glancing at her sister several times throughout the evening, a worried crease forming between her eyebrows. When Meredith left early, claiming she had work to catch up on, Layla hugged her and said she hoped they could celebrate together soon. Meredith gave a tight smile that did not reach her eyes and walked out the door. That night, as Layla and I cleaned up the kitchen, she tried to rationalize her sister's behavior. Maybe Meredith was just surprised. Maybe she was tired from work. Maybe the news brought up complicated feelings about her own life. I nodded along, but something in my gut told me this was more than just surprise or fatigue. That silence felt intentional. It felt cold. But I kept my concerns to myself, hoping I was wrong. I was not wrong. That silence was just the beginning. 2 days after our dinner announcement, Layla was in the kitchen making lunch when her phone rang. It was Meredith. Layla put the call on speaker while she continued chopping vegetables, expecting casual conversation, or maybe even a delayed congratulations. I was sitting at the table nearby scrolling through my phone when I heard Meredith's voice fill the room. She asked Layla how she was feeling, and for a moment I thought maybe I had misjudged her. Then her tone shifted. She asked Layla if she had really thought this through, if she had considered all her options. Layla stopped chopping the knife hovering in midair. She asked Meredith what she meant by options. What came next made my blood run cold. Meredith said, and I will never forget these words, that she thought Layla should consider abortion. She said Layla was not ready to be a mother. She brought up the 2 miscarriages, asking what would happen if this pregnancy failed too. She said that even if the baby survived, raising a child was not something Layla could handle. Layla stood frozen, her face pale. She managed to ask her sister why she was saying these things. Meredith's voice remained calm, almost clinical, as she explained that she was saying this out of love. She said if abortion was not acceptable, then Layla should at least consider adoption. She said there were wonderful families out there who were actually prepared to raise children. Layla ended the call without another word. Her hands were shaking so badly that I had to take the knife from her grip before she hurt herself. She looked at me with such confusion and pain in her eyes that it broke my heart. She kept asking why. Why would her sister say those things? What had she done wrong? I wanted to call Meredith myself and give her a piece of my mind, but I knew that was not what Layla needed in that moment. Instead, I held her and let her cry. She told me that Meredith had always been critical of her, always pointing out her flaws and shortcomings, but Layla had convinced herself it came from a place of caring. She had spent her whole life believing that her sister's harsh words were a form of tough love meant to make her stronger. Now she was not so sure. Over the following week, Meredith did not let up. She sent Layla long text messages at all hours, laying out detailed arguments for why motherhood was a mistake for her. She cited Layla's financial situation, pointing out that I worked as a mechanic and Layla only had a part-time job at a local bookstore. She brought up Layla's history with anxiety, something she had struggled with in college and worked hard to overcome. She even sent links to articles about parental regret and the challenges of raising children on a limited income. Each message was like a small cut, and together they were bleeding Layla dry. I watched my wife, this strong and loving woman, start to shrink into herself. She would read the messages and then stare into space, her hand resting on her barely visible bump, as if protecting our baby from the words on the screen. Then Meredith escalated further. She called their mother and tried to recruit her to the cause. She told their mom that she was deeply worried about Layla, that Layla was making an impulsive decision, that she was not mature enough to handle motherhood. She asked their mother to talk some sense into her younger daughter before it was too late. Layla's mom called us that evening, confused and concerned. She wanted to know what was going on between the sisters. Layla tried to explain, but she could barely get the words out without crying. I took the phone and told her mother everything about the calls, the texts, the pressure. Her mother was shocked. She said she would talk to Meredith, that this behavior was unacceptable. But Meredith was not finished. A few days later, I came home from work to find her car in our driveway. She had shown up unannounced. When I walked in, I found her sitting on our couch across from Layla, a manila folder in her hands. Layla looked trapped, her arms wrapped protectively around her middle. Meredith stood up when she saw me and held out the folder. She said she had done research, that she had found an excellent adoption agency with outstanding reviews. She said the child would have a better life with a family who was actually prepared, who had the resources and stability to provide properly. I told her she needed to leave. She ignored me and continued talking to Layla, saying she was only doing what was best for her little sister, that someday Layla would thank her for this intervention. Layla finally found her voice and asked Meredith to go. But Meredith did not move. That was when Meredith turned to me with a look I will never forget. It was contempt, pure and undisguised. She said that I was just a mechanic, that she did not understand how I could possibly support a child, that Layla deserved better than a life of financial struggle. She said she had always thought Layla could do better than me, and now this pregnancy was going to trap her in a life of mediocrity. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. I told Meredith that she could insult me all she wanted, but she would not continue to hurt my wife in our own home. I told her to leave and not come back until she could treat Layla with the respect she deserved. Meredith gathered her folder and walked out, but not before telling Layla that she would regret this decision for the rest of her life. After she left, Layla collapsed onto the couch. The damage was done. Over the following days, I watched her confidence crumble. She started second-guessing everything. Maybe she was not ready. Maybe she would be a terrible mother. Maybe Meredith was right about me too. Maybe I could not provide the life our child deserved. The beautiful excitement she had felt about this pregnancy was being poisoned by her sister's cruelty. Meredith was not just attacking our decision. She was attacking everything Layla believed about herself. The truth came out in the most unexpected way. About 2 weeks after Meredith's visit to our home, Layla's mother stopped by to check on us. She had been trying to mediate between her daughters with little success. Meredith refused to apologize or back down from her position, and Layla was too hurt to initiate contact. That afternoon, Layla's mom sat us down with cups of tea and a troubled expression. She said there was something we needed to know, something she had overheard that changed everything. She had been at Meredith's apartment a few days earlier, dropping off some Tupperware she had borrowed. Meredith was on a phone call in the other room and did not realize her mother had let herself in. What Layla's mom heard made her stomach turn. Meredith was talking to a friend, venting about the pregnancy announcement. She was not expressing concern for Layla's well-being. She was expressing jealousy, raw and bitter. Meredith had said she could not stand it that Layla was going to have a baby and everyone would forget about her. She said their parents would only care about Layla and the grandchild now. She said she had always been the successful one, and now Layla was getting all the attention just because she was pregnant. Layla sat in stunned silence as her mother recounted the conversation. Then something shifted in her expression. The confusion cleared, replaced by a painful understanding. This was never about her. This was never about the baby or concerns about readiness or finances. This was about Meredith and her inability to share the spotlight. Meredith had built her identity around being the accomplished one, the successful one, the one their parents bragged about. Her divorce had shaken that identity, but she had rebuilt it around her career. Now here was Layla achieving something Meredith had never managed to do: creating a family, bringing a grandchild into the world. Meredith could not stand it. But knowing the truth did not stop Meredith from continuing her campaign. In fact, she seemed to intensify her efforts. A week after we learned about her jealousy, Layla got a call from her supervisor at the bookstore. Meredith had contacted them. She had told Layla's boss that her sister was experiencing mental health issues and was not stable enough to continue working. She suggested that Layla might need to take a leave of absence for her own good. Layla was mortified. She had to sit down with her supervisor and explain that her sister was acting out of spite, that she was perfectly capable of continuing her job. Her supervisor was understanding, but the humiliation lingered. Layla loved that job. It was her escape, her small piece of independence, and Meredith had tried to take it from her. Then came the social media post. Meredith wrote a vague but pointed status about being worried about a family member who was making reckless decisions, about how sometimes the people we love need us to tell them hard truths even when they do not want to hear it. She did not name Layla, but anyone who knew the family could read between the lines. Comments poured in from extended family and mutual friends, asking what was wrong, offering support to Meredith for being such a caring sister. Layla had to field calls and messages from relatives she had not spoken to in months, all wanting to know if she was okay, some of them clearly influenced by Meredith's narrative. It was exhausting and demeaning. Meredith was not just attacking Layla in private anymore. She was building a public case against her. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. Layla called Meredith, hoping against hope that she could reach the sister she used to know, the one who had comforted her through breakups and celebrated her small victories. She asked Meredith through tears why she was doing this. What had Layla done to deserve this treatment? Why could her sister not just be happy for her? Meredith's response was ice cold. She said she was trying to protect Layla from herself. She said Layla had always been the weak one, the one who needed guidance, the one who could not make good decisions on her own. Then she said the words that shattered what was left of Layla's composure. She said that Layla could not even keep a pregnancy, so what made her think she could raise a child? Layla dropped the phone. I found her 20 minutes later, curled up on the bathroom floor, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She kept repeating what Meredith had said, those cruel words about not being able to keep a pregnancy, as if the miscarriages were her fault, as if they were evidence of her inadequacy rather than tragedies she had survived. I helped her up, got her to bed, and held her until she finally fell asleep from exhaustion. As I lay there in the dark listening to her ragged breathing, I knew something had to change. This could not continue. The stress was not good for Layla, and it was not good for our baby. But more than that, I could not watch the woman I love be destroyed by someone who was supposed to love her too. The next morning, Layla woke up with a different look in her eyes. The devastation was still there, but underneath it was something new: resolve. She told me she had made a decision. She was going to face Meredith one more time, not to beg for acceptance or understanding, but to set a boundary once and for all. She called Meredith and asked her to meet at a coffee shop in town. Neutral ground. She wanted witnesses around in case things got heated, and she wanted to be able to walk away when she was done. I insisted on coming along. I sat at a table across the room, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give Layla the space to do this herself. Meredith arrived looking polished and confident, as if she expected this meeting to be another opportunity to press her case. She sat down across from Layla and immediately started talking about how she hoped Layla had come to her senses, how it was not too late to make the right choice. Layla let her finish. Then she spoke, and her voice was steady in a way I had not heard in weeks. She told Meredith that she knew the truth now. She knew this was never about concern for her well-being. This was about jealousy. This was about Meredith's inability to let anyone else have something she did not. Meredith tried to interrupt to deny it, but Layla held up her hand and kept going. She said she had spent her entire life looking up to Meredith, trying to earn her approval, wondering why she could never quite measure up. She said she was done with that. She was done seeking validation from someone who only wanted to tear her down. Then Layla said the words that I will remember forever. She told Meredith that she was going to be a mother, and she was going to be a good one. Not because Meredith believed in her, but because she believed in herself. She said that from this moment forward, Meredith was no longer welcome in her life until she could genuinely be happy for her sister. Meredith's face went through several emotions in rapid succession: shock, anger, and then something that might have been fear. She tried to argue, calling Layla dramatic and oversensitive. She said family did not give up on each other over a disagreement. Layla stood up from the table. She said this was not a disagreement. This was months of cruelty, manipulation, and sabotage. She said she was not asking for Meredith's permission or approval. She was telling her the decision she had made. Then she said goodbye and walked toward the door. I stood up and followed her, pausing just long enough to see Meredith sitting alone at the table, her carefully constructed confidence cracking at the edges. Outside, Layla grabbed my hand and squeezed it tight. She was shaking, but she was also standing taller than she had in months. That day, Layla did not just stand up for herself. She stood up for our baby and for our future. The weeks following that coffee shop confrontation were not easy. Setting a boundary with someone you love, even when they have hurt you deeply, comes with its own kind of grief. Layla mourned the sister she thought she had, the relationship she had always hoped they could build. There were nights when she cried not from anger, but from loss. She missed the Meredith from their childhood, the teenager who had taught her to ride a bike and helped her with homework. She wondered if that Meredith had ever really existed, or if she had been wearing rose-colored glasses her whole life. The questioning was painful, but it was also necessary. I reminded her every day that setting this boundary did not make her a bad person. Protecting herself and our baby from toxic behavior was an act of love, not cruelty. Slowly, she started to believe it. Layla found support in unexpected places. She joined an online group for women who had experienced pregnancy after loss. These women understood her fears in a way that others could not. They celebrated her milestones with her and reassured her during moments of anxiety. Some of them shared their own stories of difficult family relationships, and Layla realized she was not alone in navigating these painful dynamics. She also started keeping a journal. Every night before bed, she would write to our baby. She wrote about the kicks she was starting to feel, the names we were considering, the hopes she had for the future. It became a ritual that helped her focus on the joy of this pregnancy rather than the pain her sister had caused. Layla's parents were firmly in her corner. Her mother had a long, serious conversation with Meredith about her behavior, making it clear that what she had done was unacceptable. Her father, a quiet man who rarely got involved in conflict, told Meredith he was deeply disappointed in her. For the first time in her life, Meredith was not the golden child. She had to face the consequences of her actions. As the months passed, Layla's confidence returned. She decorated the nursery with care, choosing soft yellows and greens. She took prenatal classes and read books about infant care. She talked to her belly constantly, telling our baby about all the wonderful things waiting in the world. The shadow Meredith had cast began to lift. 7 months after that day in the coffee shop, Layla went into labor. I drove to the hospital with my heart pounding, holding her hand at every red light. 16 hours later, our daughter was born. She weighed 7 pounds and 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and the most perfect little face I had ever seen. When the nurse placed her in my arms for the first time, I cried. I am not ashamed to admit it. This tiny person, this miracle we had waited and hoped and fought for, was finally here. Layla looked at us both with exhausted, radiant joy and said the words I will carry with me forever. She said we made it, that our daughter was here. We named her Hope. It felt like the only name that made sense. Hope was what we had clung to through the miscarriages, through the months of trying, through Meredith's campaign of cruelty. Hope was what Layla had found when she chose to believe in herself. And now Hope was here, real and breathing, and ours. A few weeks after Hope was born, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from Meredith. She wrote that she was sorry that she had been dealing with her own pain and had taken it out on Layla in unforgivable ways. She asked if there was any chance for reconciliation, any path back to being sisters. Layla read the letter several times. Then she put it in a drawer. She told me she was not ready to open that door yet. She did not hate Meredith, and she hoped that someday her sister would genuinely heal and change. But forgiveness would take time, and it would require more than words on paper. It would require Meredith to show through her actions that she had truly transformed. For now, Layla's focus was on our little family, on Hope's first smile and first giggle, on building a home filled with love and security, on being the mother she had always dreamed of becoming. Looking back on everything we went through, I have learned some hard lessons about family. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we least expect. Love does not give anyone the right to tear you down. And setting boundaries is not selfish. It is self-respect. Layla taught me something else too. She showed me that strength is not about never falling down. It is about getting back up even when someone you trusted has knocked you flat. It is about choosing yourself and your future even when that choice is painful. If you are watching this and you are in a situation where someone in your family is tearing you down instead of building you up, I want you to know something important. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the right to choose yourself. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. I would love to hear your thoughts on this story. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with a family member? How did you handle it? Drop your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And if you are not already subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss more stories like this one. Thank you for being here and for listening to our story. I hope that wherever you are in your own journey, you find the courage to protect your heart and the people you love. Wishing you peace, strength, and a whole lot of hope.